Energy makes your possibilities possible. And at Southern Company, we're committed to ensuring your energy is there when you need it most. A commitment we have the privilege to keep. Southern Company, building the future of energy.
View 2, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, welcome. I am Tamara Scott. This is the Tamara Scott Show. We thank you for joining us each Monday through Friday on WVWTV.live. WVW is WorldviewWeekendTV.com, WVW-TV. We're honored to be here, and for those of you who join us, we're glad you can travel along. We help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. We try not to get caught up in those headlines because if it wasn't apparent before, you cannot ignore that after 2020, whoever they are, the deep state, the globalist, the antagonist, will do everything they can to throw things into our headlines to put us in a tailspin. And if we're not careful, we're like that ball in the pinball machine, which I know dates me. I don't know how many of you remember what a pinball machine looks like. They were noisy, but you were always going from one paddle to the other, just back and forth. And sometimes you could get the ball where you wanted it to go, but it was a lot more difficult. And I just think we need to stay focused. So we mentioned the headlines on this show, but I think we need to stay focused and not become fearful. If they can make us fearful, then they can make us vulnerable and malleable. I think we need to stay focused, not to the right or to the left, looking where God directs us, listening to his voice. And that's what we try to do on this show. We bring you information. We ask you to weigh it out, pray it out, and decide for yourself. Decide and discern for yourself. All right. So before I get to our guest, there are a couple headlines we will just mention. Of course, the passing of John MacArthur. Lots of divided opinions on him. And all I will say is sympathies to the families, prayers. I don't know him. I didn't follow him. I never had him on as a guest. I just don't know him. But as we always pray with everything, truth come out, falsehoods exposed, and that will hopefully bring justice. That we pray that in everything. And then there's a little tweet out by Allie Bestecki, who I don't think I've interviewed her. I've had her do other meetings for me, and she's been very, very kind to do that and very workable when we've asked her to do other events. Allie Bestecki is one of those folks we would call an influencer in the Christian realm, and usually pretty spot on. She has a comment about the Gaines, Chip and Joanna Gaines' new show, prominently featuring a gay couple who procured their sons via surrogacy. Not going there. Here's the deal. I am not here to poke fingers, to speculate, to foster, whatever. Once we get facts, then we'll talk, right? So we'll see what that's about. We'll wait and see what that's about. And then there's another one about Baylor University pushing LGBTQ, apparently taking money to push LGBTQ and then returning it, which we should applaud. We should always applaud. And some are asking if it's just to get them out of trouble, to deal with the narrative, or if there's been a repentance. I don't know, but I did reach out to a friend with Baylor ties, and the words they sent, I think, were very fitting. Pray more, talk less. Pray more, talk less. And so on this show, until we have more information, we're not just going to go there. Yes, you know that. You know that that's what we do. Yesterday on our show, we had Dr. Linda Johnson. Thank you for those of you who did send me emails. I didn't see them during the show. It's a lot for me to do, and I've got the monitors and the information, and so I missed them. I apologize, but we'll see if we can either connect you and the doctor, or she's willing to come back, and we can ask your questions then. Thanks for everybody who sent questions. All right, today, my guest. So here's the deal. was supposed to be Dennis Behrman. Dennis Behrman is a friend of the show. We love having him on the show. He can talk about a variety of issues. He's talked about AI, and that's what we're going to discuss, AI. He talked about his book, Endgame. He's in a power outage. He cannot control it. And so I appreciated him letting me know. So I put the feelers out to multiple people, and the Promethean Action Group, a good group that we've enjoyed interviewing several from that organization. My friend Susan Kokenda sent me the name of Mike Steger, and Mike Steger, Seger, was willing. And here's the fun of it. I was so disappointed I couldn't have Dennis on, right? I reach out to Mike and I say, what would you like to discuss? Since you're hopping on today, I'll give you full freedom to discuss whatever is on your plate. He had just done a presentation on this topic last night, and it's perfect because it's something that I wanted to discuss, something I absolutely wanted to discuss, but we already had shows lined up for the week. And as God does, he intervenes, he steps in. Dennis couldn't be here. We're going to put him on next Tuesday. And Mike is here joining me today. Mike has worked in politics for 25 years. He's the founder of the Promethean Action Group, an advocacy group for Trump's policies on economic truth and peace abroad. He lives in the Detroit area where his wife is a church organist and a music director. You can follow him on X at STEGERMG. STEGERMG. Mike, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, great to be here.
So when I ask you what you wanted to discuss, do you want to tell our viewers what you said?
Well, see, what did I say? I said that the Epstein situation or obsession is probably more an intelligence operation itself, and that the real story is the Trump going after the Russiagate coup, the attempt to overthrow our Constitution, our president, and drive us into war with Russia. That's the real deep state, and that's where our political focus should be today.
All right. So when you said Epstein, I was absolutely pleased because I don't want to chase headlines. I don't want to chase influencers. Some are very credible, but I don't want to get caught up in just the whole mess of it all. But I do want a little bit of information. For those of you who may not know, I will have Thomas play a quick clip. Oh, excuse me, I think I have Caleb as my producer today. Caleb, could you play the quick clip we played a week ago today when this was somewhat breaking news when Brandon House joined our show?
Sure. Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
All right. So I don't think she did answer. I guess we've only had that clip from what Brandon had on the show. Maybe you know if she went ahead and answered. I will say she was calm the whole time.
Yeah.
Nothing to her. She did answer. Okay. Nothing. You can tell I'm not chasing these headlines. I'm just I'll come back to that in a minute. But she didn't seem shaken by the question. Now, to answer for Trump being a little bit put out, I wish he would have let her just answer it because she was ready. But two, as I said to Brandon when he brought that clip on, I don't know the meaning, the purpose of the meeting. If it was over the Texas floods, if it was over something else, we've all seen the reporters who try to disrupt a meeting, who try to hijack it and take it another way. So I don't know if that was what Trump was responding to. And we all know he can be a little bit over the what we would think when he's got an opinion. But I also said he ran on accountability and transparency, as every candidate does. And if there's anybody who can handle it, I think he can. So fast forward 1 week. You say she answered it. What did she say, or where are we at on the what is your thoughts on the Epstein file?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that Pam Bondi didn't handle the whole Epstein question well. I mean, just with the binders. So if you take the binders, the first week of the administration, she gave binders to a bunch of YouTubers and social media personalities, and this had the full story, and it was already stuff that had been out there. But let's just be very clear on what the Epstein situation is, because it's not really about Pam Bondi. In some sense, maybe it is about Pam Bondi, but let me get to why that might be the case, in a way that you might not have considered. So first, is Jeffrey Epstein a dirty, rotten intelligence scoundrel and pedophile and pimp and everything else? And absolutely, there's no doubt of that. But if we're concerned about child trafficking, pedophilia, then we've got 500,000, between 300 and 500,000 children that have been sex trafficked across the US border, let alone the countless others that are just in the country under trafficking and prostitution rackets. We have a massive pornography addiction in the United States. It's a plague amongst young men. It's a general cultural phenomena. We've turned obscenity into free speech, and that's a cultural debate we need to kind of come back to and have. So, but though, if we're really concerned about the morality of it and not just Epstein as an intelligence agent, I think we know Trump's focus on those areas, especially that human trafficking across the border, is A plus, top notch focus. If we're assuming that pulling the string on Jeffrey Epstein will somehow be the loose string that, once pulled, will unravel the entire globalist network and bring down the globalist deep state operations, expose all of the people involved, bring them all down, and allow the United States to now reemerge as a true constitutional republic, then we have bought the Brooklyn Bridge. That is not going to be the Epstein file. That is not going to be the nature of this process. Even if all the documents and all the files and all the lists were released, that isn't going to happen. And what's peculiar is that this story takes on such increased focus now. Why now? Now, I can't explain why it was put out. Part of it is, of course, put out on the DOJ website on Sunday evening, 2 Sundays ago, which kind of made it a story. And why that was done, I don't know. Who in the DOJ did that, why it was done. But what we do know is that the biggest and most criminal intelligence operation, if we look over the last 25 years, there's been a few very serious criminal intelligence failures, or intelligence community deep state operations. One of them is certainly 9/11, the intelligence failures that led to that, the intelligence failures that led us into the Iraq War, the intelligence failures really on the vetting and orientation of Obama generally, I would consider a major intelligence failure or deep state involvement. But perhaps the most obvious and relevant to Trump, this administration, and to our republic today is the Russiagate attempted, and in some cases, successful coup of President Trump. That is at the core today of the criminalization of the deep state, of the intelligence and Department of Justice community, of the FBI. It begins no later than July of 2016, and we could certainly go back to December of 2015. But in July of 2016, we know Brennan walked into Obama's Oval Office, briefed him on the possibility that Trump was being controlled or influenced by Russia as a Russian agent, though Brennan knew Hillary Clinton, her campaign team, her lawyers like Mark Elias were explicitly putting out a lie, a known lie, that Trump was a Russian agent, hoping it would stick and undermine his campaign. So
All right. So
that's a
we've got to go to a
conspiracy we
break.
know was involved. Yeah, go ahead.
Hang on to that. Hang on to that. We've got to go to a break. We'll be right
Okay.
back. My guest is Michael Sager. He is the founder of Promethean Pack or PrometheanAction.com. And we're talking about the Epstein file, but we're also going to talk, as you can see, about other issues that we cannot be distracted from fully investigating and pursuing as well. And there's more to say on that. I just need to say this before we go to break. To anybody out there who has been the victim of assault, who has been trafficked, who knows the pain of this. We're not making light of it. We're not saying there shouldn't be justice, not in any way, but we're not getting tangled up in the political quagmire that would cause us to become distracted from other things either. Trying to get to the bottom of it. My guest is Mike Sager. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
And to everybody out there, you know that we offer you these slender little sachets through Bella Grace. You can go to Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com. Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com. They look like a beauty product in a pretty little package, and they are. But they're also so much more. It's a powerful supplement of collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. I love the fact that it's so convenient. Look at this. Rip it, sip it, flip it in the trash, and I'm done. No mixing, no measuring. I don't have to take a bunch of powder with me and try to get through TSA with a white powder. Here it is. Keep them in my car, my studio, my home, and that helps me stay on schedule because I forget. I'm not great at routines because my hours are so flexible with travel. So this is a great way for me to do it. Plus, it comes to my door. I don't have to go to the store. A big plus for me. But the beauty in 2022 has got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023 helping with in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. Now, the best thing is what many of you say. You have seen it helping you with joint health, improved mobility, improved immunity, improved stress management, endurance, less fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. As well, computer vision syndrome, helping with less eye strain and fatigue, alleviating dry eyes, and visual acuity and depth perception being enhanced. I noticed that, but I didn't put it together. I was wondering what had changed. I didn't put it together until some of you started talking about it, and it had to be it. Also, firmer, smoother skin texture, fine lines and wrinkles are reduced, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, and better sleep. That's what many of you have noted. Those could be cosmetic, or maybe they're byproducts of actually being healthier because you're getting a little boost. Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com. When you go there, you'll see before and after videos, informational videos, and maybe even some studies. You'll also see their other products like their skincare system, which I said I'd never use. Didn't have the determination or discipline. It was so easy. I was already washing my face. Now I just use a great cleanser. I was already putting on moisturizer. Now I just use an incredible product. And I wasn't using the serum, but I will now because I love the way it feels on my skin and the way my skin felt the rest of the day. Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com. All right, Michael, am I saying your last name correctly? Is it Seeger or Sager?
Yeah, Stager. You've been saying it right, yeah.
Okay, Sager, okay. And is there a T in it or is it Seger?
It's Stager, yeah, with a T.
With a T. Oh, I think I have to correct my spelling on here, Caleb. I don't know that I got the T, so it's Steger to our viewers. Mike is pitch hitting for me today when I had a guest with a power outage, and I'm so pleased. For me, it's like God answered a prayer because I wanted to hit this Epstein thing, but as you know, I don't want to hit it from all the scandal and the Facebook and social media hype. All right, so I had just said to our viewers, and I want to say it again. We are not dismissing anything that happened to children in any way. We want to get to the bottom of that. For every child, for every victim, they deserve justice. That's where we want to go. We also just don't want to get caught up chasing tails in headlines. So let me very quickly say, the Democrats are all of a sudden all about this when they sat on it for 4 years and didn't go into it. If there was something there that they should have put out, don't you think they would have done it? And then I want to come back to where you were. heading into on the Russiagate.
Yeah. So let me just tie Epstein into this. So I mentioned 4 intelligence failures. I referenced the Russiagate coup against Trump is probably the most relevant, and I'll touch on that more. But let's look at this. Did Epstein run the Russiagate coup? Was Epstein running the Obama presidency or his election process? Was Epstein running the 9/11 or Iraq war failures? Now, I would say absolutely not. Epstein wasn't running that, but he was being run by the same institutions and people running those operations. The people that, so this, let me make it very explicit and clear. The people running the intelligence operations to either distract, mislead, and help destroy the American people and the United States as a country are the same ones controlling and running Jeffrey Epstein. That, I think, is verifiable. And his kind of pornographic, political intelligence operation is part of their kind of satanic game. But that doesn't mean that as a political focus, we should take up the Epstein should be the kind of litmus test for Trump's commitment and promise to get retribution on the people that have really worn down and targeted our country. Now, so I think that's 2 factors. Jeffrey Epstein's a horrible guy, immoral bastard, and the crimes and cultural elements that he promoted and that our culture promotes around people like Jeffrey Epstein is something that we have to address politically, as a nation, culturally. We've got to rebuild the moral and kind of industrial backbone of this country. But Jeffrey Epstein was not involved in the Russiagate coup. Neither did President Trump in his campaign ever promise or make commitments or put emphasis on the role of Jeffrey Epstein. That was a lot of other people. And they might have promoted Jeffrey Epstein because, one, it creates a lot of attention, because maybe they had a certain sense that this was the string that unraveled the global deep state kind of world. But Trump didn't make those commitments, and it was President Trump, not all of these other podcasters and other people involved, who had taken the responsibility to run the nation. And I think this is why President Trump is like, why are we continuing to make this a story? Why is the media and now even the Democrats are now wanting to make this a story? It's clear that it's meant to be a distraction. And I think there's clear evidence of why. One of which is actually Pam Bondi. In the course of now Kash Patel and Bongino taking over the FBI, and Trump and Pam Bondi taking over the DOJ with the election now over the last 6 months, a number of things have come to light. There was, as Kash Patel related to Joe Rogan early in June, an entire trove, what he called in a vault, in a locker or in a vault, a trove of documents which were handwritten or direct communications of the people involved in the Russiagate coup. Now, they thought this would never come to light. This was kept out of any kind of public scrutiny, so Congress and no one would ever know about where these documents were held. But now, because Trump has taken power, MAGA, and we've mobilized, we've helped take power, we now have access to this trove of documents, including a number of annexes that were never made public from the investigations of Russiagate done by a guy named, John Durham. So all of this is now getting compiled. But what's under consideration today is that it won't just simply be Kash Patel and the FBI have already made a reference what's the word I'm looking for? A referral, a criminal referral to the DOJ for an indictment on John Brennan and James Comey for their role in lying to Congress and covering up the Russiagate fraud. I mean, they manipulated FISA, they lied to Congress, they basically tried to blackmail and entrap the sitting president. I mean, and it includes so many people, and I don't want to recount the whole story. I mean, that wouldn't be worthwhile today. The point of it, though, is that Pam Bondi is going to make a decision, because that criminal referral lying to Congress is one thing. But the bigger question is a potential conspiracy indictment. That would mean that crimes including the Hunter Biden laptop story, the 51 intelligence officials, all who which basically knowingly lied to say that this was, again, Russian disinformation, was part of the conspiracy. The raid on Mar-a-Lago was part of the conspiracy. Basically an attempt to intimidate and I mean, they went in there fully loaded with guns into Trump's home. So these elements, this criminal abuse and criminalization of our Department of Justice, of our FBI, or the politicization, weaponization of these institutions, were part of a grand conspiracy. Like I said, goes back to no later or no earlier than or no later than July 2016 in Obama's Oval Office, with Obama directly involved. It involves Hillary Clinton. It involves Joe Biden. It involves the impeachment attempts of President Trump. It involves the intelligence community's engagement in January 6th. So you see, all of a sudden, you start to pull this in. It's not a question of lying to Congress. It's a potential conspiracy indictment of all of these aspects, which we know of: clear lies, clear evidence, the pipe bombs at the DNC, and so on. All of these questions now can get wrapped into a broad-based conspiracy investigation that Trump has made clear reference. This is what he wants done. He wants the 2000 election looked at. He wants J6 looked at. He wants the weaponization. He wants the Russiagate. What role will Pam Bondi play in this? She will be the person, it'll be the Attorney General who will appoint a special prosecutor to take up this kind of conspiracy indictment. It will be a special prosecutor. This would include, like Jack Smith was a special prosecutor, though he was never confirmed by the Senate. But it's the Attorney General's role in this question. So should Trump right now change his Attorney General? If we're talking about a conspiracy charge that looks at over a 10-year period, a conspiracy that doesn't just include the United States, intelligence and FBI and DOJ and other elements involved, but we know there was direct involvement from British intelligence out of London, out of people like Robert Hannigan, former head of British intelligence and GCHQ, people like Christopher Steele, a well-known British intelligence operative who played a direct role in creating the Steele dossier, complete set of salacious lies, which John Brennan included in the intelligence assessment on all of this, knowingly knowing that it was a fraud. We're looking at a huge investigation of perhaps more significant. This would be like the Kennedy investigation of all the documents coming out and being prosecuted by Lyndon Johnson or even Richard Nixon. Maybe it might have been more likely by Nixon. Why maybe Nixon was removed. But the point, that's just speculation. But the point is that this is huge. And it gets at it not 40, 50, or 60 years from today. It gets at it now when these people are still active, these institutions are involved, and they can be held to account. And so this is the big story, not Epstein. And you might have to go to another break, but I'll lead with this, that this is not just a question of domestic interests. It's these same institutions today which are attempting to bum rush Trump into an escalated war with Russia. And that's exactly why this has even more relevance than we might think.
All right. Talking with Michael Steger, Steger. We will come back. We'll talk more about this. I want to say it again. You just said something about not making Epstein the big story. And I know I'm already getting texts from our viewers. It's not that we're not giving Epstein the full, we're not done with Epstein. We want justice for every victim there, whether we have survivors or those who have now lost their lives, those who came forward and lost their lives. We want to get to the bottom of it as much as you do. But this latest scuttle, I think what I'm saying is don't let the left take you down a whole nother rabbit hole, and don't be surprised about the headlines. Let me go to break. We'll be right back, Michael. Keep that thought, okay? We'll be right back after this message.
You got it.
And one more product, we offer you several because everyone has different preferences. Your bodies respond differently. And so this is Numi. You can go to neumi.com/TTSS, neumi.com/TTSS. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. We want you on the front lines fighting for your freedom and your family. And so when you do that, and when you go to the TTSS/TTSS, that's the Tamara Scott Show. You help us as well, as long as helping yourself. The lavender is for ladies along your journey, anywhere along the way. It does not have any hormonal supplements, but if you're taking some, you might want to check with your doctor just to make sure there is no issue. The blue is for anybody over 18. It has a glutathione in it, which is an antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions. If you are oxygen based, which we are, you would not survive 3 to 7 minutes without glutathione in your system. Did you know that? I didn't. Glutathione, and here's why it's timely right now, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those ingredients, chemicals that we also learned about recently, as well as glyphosate. Glyphosate, some concerned about links possibly with cancers, HPV, and diabetes. This is one help in helping detox. The glutathione detoxes or helps with the detox of the glyphosate, as well as graphene oxide, heavy metals, forever chemicals. Now you see that mango colored bottle, that is Numi Neuro. Many were concerned about brain fog, whether it was from a virus or a vaccine. That that Numi Neuro helps with mind, memory, and focus. When used with the blue bottle, results were so good that the American Brain Council actually wrote something that looked like an endorsement, though they apparently don't usually do that. But the results were so good, it was so positive that it looks like an endorsement. You can see the Numi skin as well. And so all of those are available at neumi.com/TTSS. We want you feeling your best. I love taking this. It's easy for me to take, and I can tell a difference when I take it almost immediately. But it's not like an upper or a zipper. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just my body feels stronger. All right. My guest is Michael Steger. He's the founder of Promethean Action. Michael, I knew you were wanting to say more, but
Yeah.
we had to go to break, and I
I'm
thank
only
you for
a
respecting
founder.
that.
I'm
So
only
I'll
a
turn.
founder. Yeah.
Okay, one of the
Yeah.
founders.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanted to address, what you referenced from some of the comments you're getting. This is not a question of ignoring Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
It's saying, okay, just look at what this is. Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence operative from probably various intelligence agencies. And as a friend once said, is the people controlling Jeffrey Epstein, are they the intelligence agencies, or are they the people controlling elements of the intelligence agencies? But here's the bigger point. Do we want to bring down how many people out there, how many psychopaths out there are interested in becoming a Jeffrey Epstein? Big billionaire, own your own island, big Park Avenue mansions, travel all over the world. Jeffrey Epstein could be created a dime a dozen. What I'm interested in, and I think what President Trump is interested in, is not simply fixating on one criminal feature of this operation, which is the Epstein operation, but bringing down those institutions, those globalist and deep state operations, which are responsible for Jeffrey Epstein operations in all kinds of different myriad ways throughout much of our history. Are we going to bring down the agencies and corruption that created Jeffrey Epstein so that these kinds of things no longer continue to occur? To me, that's real retribution, that's real justice, and those are the real criminals involved in all of this.
So the victims are the same. We're not in any way taking anything away from the victims, but we're possibly preventing more victims because your statement that any Epstein could be created. If there are deep state or globalist or whoever they are, whoever that they are, the oligarch, the power hungry are, who have created an Epstein in the first place or allowed him to exist. I mean, any government could have taken him down over what was happening, and they didn't. So whoever is allowing him to exist, your point is they could raise up another one, maybe already have. And if we could stop them, that stops more people from being harmed in the future. I think that is noble, and I think that's spot on, that people aren't thinking about that. When you say you think this is where Trump goes, I don't know. I'm not in his inner circle. But it sounds like the Trump we know. While we hear it playing checkers, he's playing four-dimensional chess. And it also, to me, would possibly answer why he had such response so quickly with such vigor, because he has a plan in place and didn't maybe want something to go out. I don't know. So I think you're onto something there. I think our viewers will see it. The Bible tells us you got to go to the root. You got to stop the root. And I think after everything Trump's family has been through, you mentioned the Mar-a-Lago raid. I think they have done everything they could to destroy this man. And as I mentioned, they didn't talk about these the whole Biden administration. All of a sudden, they're interested in wanting to bring them out. We know why, because they're just trying to stall. They're just trying to create a hardship for Republicans. They're trying to embarrass Republicans, and they think they can hang this on Trump's neck. So let me ask you very quickly. The media is saying, social media, that this will separate MAGA supporters from Trump, that this is the big divide. What do you think?
They've said that a million times, and no, that's just not going to happen. People get whipped up. Emotions can be very intense. The story has been whipped up for a while. I'm not saying it's unjustified that it's a story, but the question of why it's become a fixation of it is in some sense that it has such political strength to it. I think that there is something different. It's one thing to give justice to the victims. It's another thing to say this is part of the war we're waging to secure our country. I don't think MAGA is going to be split by this. I don't think it undermines the midterms. I think the biggest question at stake, and I think the enemies of Trump and our country know this, is to what extent are the lives of the majority of the American people improved over the course of these next, the first 2 years of his second term. That's what's going to come down to the midterm election. That's what's going to be a decisive factor. And I think for the MAGA movement, the more we recognize Trump is looking to create not only a new era of peace, not only a new era, a new golden age for America in terms of economic growth, but he's also now waging a kind of full exposure and potential criminal conspiracy indictments over the entire nest of the intelligence community that would have been directly responsible or at least involved in the Epstein operation. But even perhaps more so, the ones directly involved in attempting to thwart our US Constitution. I think this is huge. And this is a story that should be getting far more attention. It's far bigger than people could imagine. And if we can get the political support to that, imagine if a lot of the people who believed in the Russiagate story and believe in the idea that we should now support a full-on war with Russia are increasingly exposed to the fact that this was a massive conspiracy as the evidence rolls out, as things become declassified, go public, go to Congress. This is the kind of thing that can fundamentally reshape a sense of what the last 10 years have been with Trump's first term, how chaotic that was, and the unseen levels of destruction that Biden's presidency represented. So I think we've got a chance to pull MAGA together in ways we've never even thought about, given what Trump's unleashing and what this conspiracy indictment could lead to.
So to me, I'm just thankful you came on today, and the timing of it is perfect, I think, for our calendar. But you're bringing to this, I think, of a kind of a foundational grounding, kind of bringing us back. Everybody was so upset over his answer. It did seem dismissive, but I think it was redirective. I think he was trying to steer it another direction, just like many of you, when somebody asks you something and you know the answer, but you're trying not, I don't care if it's a birthday gift you're trying not to give away. You know the answer and you head off another direction because you don't want to get tangled up and possibly give up something. All right, so you think that the Trump administration is working to tackle this at the root, which is going to be huge. Talk to us about what will a full-on conspiracy, I get rid of the name you gave it, what will that mean? What will that entail? Is it possible that he can even tackle this? And that would be why Democrats are also trying to distract with just the idea of the list.
I mean, it is so big. I mean, you're talking
Yeah.
about these 51 intelligence officials, you're talking about former heads of the NSA, DNI, CIA, FBI, and all of their kind of networks involved. Kash Patel says a lot of these people put things directly in writing. We're also looking at how foreign intelligence agencies, so many people are concerned, Tucker gave a big speech at Turning Point last weekend about Epstein and referencing Israel. But it's the bigger question in my mind is how British intelligence have played a serious role, one in Epstein, including the current British ambassador to the United States, but also how British intelligence played a direct role in shaping the attempted coup against President Trump. They were the same ones who also were feeding false intelligence on the Iraq War and a number of other kinds of scenarios that have led us into kind of foreign policy tragedies. So the role of British intelligence in this is something that can come out, should come out, needs to come out. And we're going to be exposing then not simply kind of the corruption or the excessive power that these intelligence agencies have gained, but we're going to start to gain a real sense of what is this globalist deep state operation, this kind of supranational intelligence community. They don't have national allegiance and they don't really abide by national laws. They are kind of an international network with a commitment or an interest in globalization, in global power, in the manipulation of nations. And I would say their core source of focus is on bringing down a constitutional republic of the United States, the very republic that Trump is reviving, that MAGA movement and we have revived. Their conspiracy is to make sure this thing is brought down so that Epstein's kind of role, the Epstein culture, will be the dominant culture of the United States. All of the immorality, all of the corruption, all of the backstabbing will become the dominant, all the financial corruption. He was a big Wall Street player. All of that will just become the American culture. No longer will we have a culture of a republic or of a constitution. So this criminal conspiracy indictment and a possible special prosecutor, all of which is under discussion, which will be in the hands of Pam Bondi, leads us to perhaps the biggest criminal investigation of a political conspiracy, of a criminal conspiracy against our Constitution in American history. And that's exactly what we should expect from the kind of revolution we waged to bring President Trump into office in 2024 and the kind of courage we've seen from President Trump. And to me, that's the big story, that all of these intelligence agencies and all of their media aspects and all of the other affluencers and influencers they may be influencing and controlling want to distract from. The big story is Trump could right now very well empower a special prosecutor and a grand jury. And let me make this something I haven't mentioned. John Durham, who was a special investigator on the Russiagate problems, he brought a couple of indictments, lower level, and he brought them into Washington, D.C., because that's where his jurisdiction was. And of course, they just failed in a grand jury in a courtroom. They just failed. But with this kind of conspiracy indictment, the special prosecutor can go outside Washington, D.C., though many of the crimes may have been committed in Washington. But as long as the conspiracy had direct aspects in places, say, like in Florida, then you can set up a grand jury outside of the controlled deep state environment of Washington, D.C. So this has real potential teeth and threat. And I believe if MAGA gets a sense of this and a whiff of this, we're going to get a sense this is the real retribution. This brings down all of these dirty, dark intelligence networks and starts to bring a real sense of justice, that justice isn't just for the lowly criminal on the street. We have to have that. But if you're going to have justice in a nation, you've also got to bring real justice to the people at the highest level who have committed some of the most heinous crimes. And this kind of potential grand jury and special prosecutor and conspiracy indictment could very well do just that.
Talking with Mike Stager. He is one of the founders for Promethean Action, and you can go to their website. They have a update just from yesterday, July 14th, and their updates are incredible. So you might want to go and just visit that one. We'll be right back after this message. Stay tuned. We'll close it up, but I so appreciate, Michael, just the provocative thought, helping us get past the headlines to think what may be bigger and what may be the reason for all these distractions. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
Right. I'm making notes here. My guest is Mike Stager. As you know, this is my classroom. I learn with a lot of you, and today has been, I think, good discussion. And to me, it's making sense. I want to say it again. We are not in any way dismissing any of the horrific acts of assault, the molestations, the rapes, the criminal acts against these victims. Not in any way. We want them to have justice. We want them to have their day in court. I'm hoping that they have remedy, that whether you call it restoration, whether you call it reparations from those individuals who either perpetrated these acts or were part of organizations who helped with this whole scheme, or even those who were complicit, maybe not part of it, but didn't take action when they saw young lives were being destroyed. I want them held accountable. But I also wonder, Mike, if what you're saying is true, and if Trump could take down this whole big system, I can't think of a better, it's not a remedy for them. But if Genesis 50:20 is true, and God can turn what others mean for harm for good, wouldn't that be the incredible justification or outcome of this? I don't even know if it's justification, but if we could bring down so many dark organizations, ugly secrets, and those who want to control our daily lives, our governments, our corporations, our populations, if this could be their undoing, I can't think of anything better for all the lives that have been destroyed. Mike, I'll take it back to you.
Potentially, I think this is potentially one of the biggest elements of what bringing Trump to power for a second term means. I mean, there's shutting down the border, shutting down this human trafficking. I think I've lived on the West Coast. I had lived on the West Coast for many years, and I can tell you the kind of breakdown of civilization. If you haven't been into places and lived there and seen them in places like Oakland or San Francisco, Portland or Seattle, even Los Angeles, you have a growing encampments of people, homeless people, living drug addiction, where massive drugs are poured into the process, but people that are fundamentally have severe mental health issues. They need all kinds of spiritual and medical assistance to kind of rehabilitate. And instead, the states and so on, mostly largely the states, are funding this to the billions of dollars, and the money is going to a whole network of people who are then enabling and growing the problem. This is not just the kind of urban blight of a Detroit or a Baltimore or a Memphis or St. Louis or something. This is a kind of dark destruction of civilization, kind of a cancer growing. We have a deep problem. Trump is the kind of inflection point. This 2024 election was an inflection point. And so this kind of indictment of a broader conspiracy to bring down Trump, to bring down the presidency, to undermine the Constitution, to weaponize the Department of Justice and the intelligence community politically in our own country, really turning us into a kind of dictatorship, which was what was threatened. Trump took all of that in stride. He mobilized, and we brought fruition to an election. This kind of conspiracy targeting those operations, and let me be clear on this. This is tied directly to the drive for war with Russia? What would be the basis of taking a nation which has now refound itself as a Russian people to be a largely predominantly Christian country, focused on its own national development and its own national sovereignty, and is fundamentally opposed to a lot of the kind of strange radical left cultural tendencies that we see in Europe, that we see in the liberal elements of the United States, the transgenders, all these other questions that have now emerged. What would be the basis of driving the US and Russia into war? Because the alternative might be that Russia may become one of our closest allies in terms of solving some of these insane cultural tendencies that have emerged and are now increasingly dominating Europe, including the open borders, the green agenda, the drug question, and of course, all the other sexual and cultural factors, of which Epstein was a major part in the drugs, the terrorism, the sex trafficking. So, this intelligence operation has been so deep, so severe. It goes far beyond Epstein. It goes back decades. Like I said, it goes back to these same institutions responsible for the killing of John Kennedy, President Kennedy. And so for Trump to take this up live as a sitting president who was directly targeted by these factions means that we can bring down the networks that were responsible for Epstein, responsible for much of the destruction of our country. Doing so won't rebuild our country. But we all know that that kind of justice, that kind of retribution, that kind of a sense of healing over what's been happening to our country, to expose it, might not expose everything, but to expose at least this deep level of conspiracy involvement at the point where we're getting pushed into increasing conflict and war, might mean that we can secure a real era of peace, rebuild our country into a new golden age, and reestablish the principles that we all know and love are the foundation of our country. That's what's at stake today. And so that's why I think that, getting angry or upset about perhaps more could be done on Epstein, I don't think Trump's team is by any means diminishing where Epstein came from and where all this operation took place. I think Trump wants to get at the root of it. He wants to rip it out. He wants to expose it in broad daylight for all of us to see, including the people that have been sucked into these kinds of cultural and political intelligence operations. How many people have bought into this kind of radical left cultural agenda and just haven't really gotten a sense of that it's a targeted operation against them? How many people were targeted or sucked into the Russiagate program and have no idea what's really been at stake? We've got to awaken an increasing number of the American people who, I think a lot of them, even the ones not voting with us, not supporting this MAGA movement yet, but many of them do love the country. And we've, in this kind of potential indictment for criminal conspiracy by a special prosecutor outside of Washington, D.C., which is going to be in the hands of Pam Bondi, is a major factor of why Trump backed up Bondi, is backing up this whole direction, and doesn't want a kind of distraction inside the MAGA base when they're already engaged in so much such significant work.
Michael Steger is my guest. We may not have answered all your questions. I'm getting more questions, but why did she deny the list? I don't know if you have a quick thought on that, but we've only got 30 seconds to a minute left. Is that something you want to address?
I don't think Pam Bondi has handled much of this very well. But to me, I don't expect everything to be handled perfectly by everybody. I don't expect them to be all perfect PR people. What I do expect Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to do is to back up this president and go after the dirty bastards that have been destroying our country. If they can do that and we can back them up and mobilize to make sure that happens, I think we'll all be very happy with the outcomes of this presidency.
Mike Steger, thank you for joining me today. I so appreciate you coming on. Good information to everybody out there. We tell you, we give you the information, you weigh it out, you pray it out. It's yours to discern and decide what you think is correct or not correct. I am thankful for that discussion today. Good, thought-provoking discussion. All right, as we tell you, live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, and never be complacent.